Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and the old world prices are out and it's expensive AF, or is it? Let's have a quick look at value compared to cost both within the rest of Games Workshop and a few third-party games that I know well enough for reference. I want to compare Games Workshop big boxes in their main lines to their niche lines to other big companies like Asmodee's Star Wars Legion or Simon's Game of Thrones, but I forgot to do them. To other more boutique companies like Corvus Belli, Pirated Press and Mantic. Looking at comparative games from them and seeing how Games Workshop and third-party Skirmish Games stack up next to the full-size games, also interesting. And so, then after like 8 minutes of me calling off numbers like we're at an auction, I'm going to do a quick summary of the actual value we see in these games. A few terms first. Cost or sticker price means the number of local currency coins you are spending, pounds, euros, dollars, gold, bullion, Bitcoin, whatever. This is of course very easy to look at multiple products and see which has a higher or lower cost. I'm using dollars in this instance and I'm looking at everything's retail price, no discounts. We then have value. In this grand hobby of ours, there are two ways to measure value. Game value and hobby value. First is how the capital G gamers view it, which is how close to a complete army does this purchase get me? Playing the actual damn game. This requires quite a bit of knowledge of the different games to try and pin down, but for simplicity in this video, we could just use a percentage score. If the game is played at 1,000 points and a box has 500 points in it, then we could say the value of the box is 50%. You then add the number of boxes you have to buy to create an actually playable army by the sticker price, and that gives you the true cost. The true cost, that's what this whole thing is. The second measurement of value is raw model count, hobby value. A lot of people just like to paint models and have cool armies and don't care about force organization or playing the game. They just want the most cool models for the price. Now, how exactly do we measure that? Yeah, no idea, to be honest with you. Because it could be as simple as dividing the sticker price by the number of models. Or we could look at the cost of buying one of everything in the range and then divide that total model count. Hobbyists are tough because likewise it's absolutely impossible to account for aesthetics. They might want a single model and then who cares about what the cost is, but for ease let's go with total models divided by dollars, cost. Dollar price per model, right? So this will give each product three things that we can compare: G value, H value and sticker price. That's game hobby value. We then get our true cost, which, yes, completely disregards H value, but that's because hobbyists are fickle beasts that I can't think of a fair way to impact the true cost because there is no perfect value as hobbyists all want different things. Also, some of these larger boxes come with extra gubbins like terrain or dice or templates or rulebooks, and I'm completely ignoring all of that. And obviously, knowing us gamers like I know myself, none of this actually matters at all, in fact, because if we like something, we're just going to buy it. But it's an interesting thought experiment. And if you want an interesting thought experiment, consider checking out my Patreon, a glorified tip jar with a few bonuses for such distinguished chaps, chapesses and chapai that deign to pimp. Let's do 40k Leviathan really quickly as it's something we are all sadly familiar with. Sticker price, $250. H value, well there we have 69 miniatures, 69, sex number, divide that by 250 and we've got an H value of $3.6. We're having fun with numbers and pretending it's real maths, let's just go with it, okay? There's no real way to account for the rulebook, etc. in here, despite, in my opinion, them having great value as I like a nice, thick, hard, rigid, stiff book. Then we have the G value. If we look at Space Marines, the points cost is 980 and then the Tyranids are 815. So it's at this point I kind of realise it gets weird because yes, that means the combined value is 45%, but this box has two valid sides and so in theory is actually playable as its own closed environment product, making a G value of 100%. Very efficient, but that means that yes, despite having been able to put numbers on the screen, every number there has like a big ish factor. The book isn't counted, it's a complete product in and of itself. Even the sticker price, I've gone RRP as I will for every product, but maybe you can get GW product discounted by 20%, but other companies only discounted by 10%. This area of miniature mathematics is fraught, so the final step is simple. Multiply the cost by the G value until we reach 100%, and that is our true cost. So the true cost of Leviathan, a launch set from Games Workshop, which everyone tends to think very highly of because we get lots of models for comparatively cheap, is $543.50. But still, this is a good first test because it's well known that GW tends to do big and good launch boxes. So I would expect for this pretty much to be the best value of anything that GW is going to put out, where they truly leverage their production power to create a really attractive way into the hobby that beats not just every other product they produce, but also every other company. Okay, so let's get on to the old world and these big numbers. Big sticker price numbers at least. Now personally I have literally no interest in the Khemri skeletons, so I'm going to look at the Bretonnians. We have their launch box, we have errant knights on foot, and we have a Pegasus banner bearer. And we only know rough points, as GW says on their website, but maybe somebody has leaked them so we do kind of know them. We don't know if that includes upgrades or not, but there's a bit of fudging going on. Oh, and just for fun, we have their dice as well. Let's do their dice first. Literally terrible. Doesn't even deserve a number, doesn't even deserve a graphic. Terrible dice. Okay, so the big box is $255 and has 76 models, and there is 1,250 points in a game that has a standard game size of 3,000, I'm assuming, based on past editions. Again, guesswork. H value, $3.30. G value, 41.7%. True cost, $611. This honestly isn't actually that far off Leviathan, but again, that's because Leviathan, from a G value perspective, is either 100% because it's providing two armies, like incredibly inefficient, whichever way you go. There will be more two-player sets from third parties later on. Let's look at the Knights on foot though. 20 models, $80. Ouch. 13 boxes gives us 2,860 points without any upgrades. 3,000 point game, remember. H value, $4. G value, 7.3%. True cost is $1,040. Now, of course, you would never actually buy an entire army of these, but it's just a way to find a consistent value for the box itself, right? And sure enough, as expected, the value of this single box is really bad, but cost per model, actually not terrible. Let's compare for reference to a box of Intercessors. Cheaper sticker price, but half the models. 10 models at 60 and having a points value of 180 in a 2K game, H value $6. G value 11.1%, true cost $660. Or we can flip it over to other knight-like models. You can buy the new Age of Sigmar, Cities of Sigmar, regular Free Guild steel helms. 10 models for $55, 100 points for 10, so super easy maths, luckily for me. H value $5.50, G value 5%, true cost $1,100. Again, just for reference on true cost, when considered as a gaming experience between the high sticker price to how much it actually costs and like the relative values. And next, let's call him just a paladin on Pegasus Knight, because I assume that Pegasus Knight kits like has a banner bearer in it already, and so let's call them around 120 points because of upgrades, etc. And he costs $65. Also, our first single model, so I assume this is going to be just a terrible total cost. H value is of course $65, G value is 4%, true cost $1,625. Lovely. Okay, so that's given us some numbers, and that's great. We all love numbers, but numbers are tricky, and humans trust their guts before their numbers. So now you've seen the process, let's compare to a few other items you might be aware of so you can start to understand how your gut feeling truly compares to sticker shock. 30k Age of Darkness Horus Heresy box is a good one to compare because it's not a core GW game, it's their weird niche expensive bleed the whales dry game. $300 giving you 1,700 points with standard games of 3k, 54 models in the box, H value is $5.50, G value is 56.7, true cost is $540. In the wake of the old world being exploded, Mantic as a company did a classic Mantic and hoovered up all those local lost GW players with their Kings of War game, a decision that went very well for them at the time. Mantic's Kings of War Mega Army box for Rift-Forged Orcs. I picked the Rift-Forged Orcs purely because I think they're the coolest army, giving me strong Warcraft Shaman vibes. 87 models, 1,015 points at $104, $40, and games in tournaments that currently are very odd, 2,300 points. H value is $1.60, Jesus. G value is 44.13, true cost is $316.4. A more recent contender on the scene is the rank and flank fantasy scene is Conquest Last Argument of Kings, a great company based out of Greece, I believe. I haven't yet had the pleasure of playing their game, but it's well regarded in the community and great to see a comparison. Do note that the miniature scale here is much larger at 38mm scale, so a totally different scale. But they're Nords versus City States, 2-player starters, $180 and 54 models. H value is $3.30, G value is 47%, true cost is $381.6. Star Wars Legion has many ways in, but looking at getting a single army, let's try the Empire Blizzard Force Battle Box, which gives us 27 models at $150, between 617 and 495 points, depending on loadouts, and Legion is normally played at 800 points, so we call that even. H value is $5.5, G value is 100%, true cost is $150. War Machine from Privateer Press, we look at a Signar Core Starter army at $200 with 22 models, and I'm assuming 75 points is the standard game size, as that seems how Mark IV is set up to be played right now. And the Core Starter set gives you a minimum of 55 points up to a maximum of 73 points. That gives you an H value of $9.1, G value is 100%, true cost is $200. And because I'm a Kill Team channel, how about a few skirmish games? Pretty much all the big skirmish games have very similar offerings in the forms of a big box that provides 2 full teams and terrain and books and widgets. So let's take a look at all of those comparing and contrasting products. Starting with, of course, Into the Dark from a year ago. We had technically 24 models along with all that terrain and books, etc. at $200. H value is $8.3. G value is, of course, 200%. True cost is, shockingly, 100%. Star Wars Shatterpoint, $100, sorry. Star Wars Shatterpoint core box with similar issues as Leviathan because it's 2-player, has terrain, book, widgets, all of that stuff, right? It's completely ignored here. But it's 16 models, 2 fully complete armies, $165, H value is $10.03, G value is 200%, true cost therefore being $82.5. The latest Infinity Starter set from Corvus Belli, Operation Blackwind at $140 for 14 models, H value $10, G value 200%, true cost $70, not bad. And Mantic Dead Zone at $125 with 24 models, H value is $5, G value is 200% of course, true cost is $57.5. Now of course I wanted to compare all of these because they have very similar offerings. Takeaways: Chinese, Indians better. Nothing at all surprising. To the original point, yes, unfortunately, the old world is more expensive than anything else Games Workshop is currently doing, but honestly not really by a huge amount. All seems pretty in line with what you'd expect from Games Workshop with a recent price creep over, something they released a few years ago. But if you can afford 40k, you can afford the old world, let's be honest. In fact, the old world actually gives you the best number of models for the sticker price of any GW product. So if you value raw model count, I'm sure the old world will be right up your alley. Buy a box yourself and then pick up some eBay offerings so you don't have the extra widgets and books weighing the cost down. It's going to be actually really good value, probably. And again, unsurprisingly, Games Workshop is the most expensive option in every category. Fantasy, sci-fi, skirmish, whatever. And that's including when taking into account how good value everyone always considers their launch boxes to be. From a true cost perspective, Games Workshop is always the most expensive. And in line with their intent and business model, Mantic is always the cheapest option, both from a H value perspective, price per model, but also from a total cost perspective. I will take a step back and say that Mantic Dead Zone is a brilliant first skirmish game that everyone should play, so check that out. And my gut had always said that War Machine core starters were honestly overcosted, but their true value is actually relatively cheap compared to everything else, and their price per model isn't the highest out there. And finally, that for those true cost prices, I think I very clearly need to stop aggressively buying more things after buying enough for a single army. Because let me tell you, no army I have ever bought for any system has ever been that true cost I've just mentioned. In fact, it would be kind of interesting to see how the cheapest possible army actually performs in the different systems. Because again, I have never, ever reached anywhere close that true cost. Because let's be honest, it's nice to see a number, but you never actually just buy that, right? You buy one, maybe two if it's great value, and then you buy a bunch of stuff that you want to buy because it's cool or because it's overpowered, and yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching. The coin says goodbye.